Good to go whenever you want. Mic and everything is on. Everything's ready to go. Everything's going already. Okay, cool. Wow. What? Yeah. They're Mexicans, anyway. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight to this Launch and Learn on Professionalism and Resume Development. I'm very happy to see some of my CubeCats members here to get ready for, since they have their first career fair next week, all that kind of fun stuff. So today, I'm not going to be the only one presenting. I'm going to go over Career Fair 101, your do's and your don'ts, as well as like just general overview of the career fair, and then professional attire and dressing for males. Then Grace is going to come up and she's going to do the same for females, since I don't know anything about professional attire for women, as well as some tips for resume writing and things like that. Then after you make it past the career fair and everything like that, you're going to have to go on to interviews. Jessica's going to talk about the importance of body language, as well as how to answer interview questions, how to deal with those kinds of things. Then after your interviews and everything is done, you obviously have your follow-up, getting jobs with government agencies, and then like what to do if you need to switch a job. Bree will cover all of this. He's had experience with all of these fields and doing all these kinds of things. So Career Fair 101, do's and don'ts. So literally a lot of this stuff was taken from, a lot of this information that I found was found from my PD lecture on Wednesday, who is a rep for GE Aviation. My professor is one of the guys who's going to be at the GE booth. Stephen Ross, if you want to go talk to him, cool guy. He loves CubeCats, people. He's brought us up at least 4 times in class. So yeah, I'll show you a picture of him later if you want to see him. So Career Fair 101, you're planning. Oh my God, you guys need to plan for the career fair. Like, going into the career fair and winging it is always an option, but it always goes so much better if you actually have a plan. Review your list of employers. Like, obviously, like, know who's going to be there beforehand. Don't just be like me and walk in there and be like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here, and then just go randomly talk to people. No, doesn't work as well. Trust me. Identify good matches with stuff you want to do. Like, if you don't know what marathon does, one, there's probably an issue because you should know what marathon does. But find about what kind of stuff they do. There's going to be a lot of weird niche companies. Like, I know a company I used to work for, Nice Performance Chemicals, who does sulfonic acid specialty catalysts and things like that, is going to be there. How would you know that unless like you did some research on them? Information sessions. If you guys know employers do information sessions beforehand, information sessions are pretty great. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. You can get like in contact with employers beforehand, like people you want to go talk to, people you want to go like see possibly. Prepare an elevator speech. How many of you know what an elevator speech is? Like, how many of you all know, like, okay, good. So everyone knows what an elevator speech is. It's your 30-second spiel about who you are, why you want a job, and then what do you want to do? So it's super important that you actually know how to say that. There are a lot of people who can't say what they've done and what they want in like a 30 to 40-second time frame, and you need to be able to do that down pat. Because that should be the first thing you should open with. You shouldn't just go up to someone and hand them a resume and be like, oh, and then like wait for them to say something to you. You should be like, here's my resume. My name's Alex McGlasson. I am a 4th-year chemical engineering and Master of Science and Material Science student, la-di-da-di-da, all this other kind of fun stuff. Prepare your resumes, custom versus general. If you have some employers that you want to go specifically talk to that you know for a fact you want to try to get a job with, customize and tailor your resume for them. Like, for example, like if I wanted to go work for another tire company, I obviously would definitely heavily emphasize my research where I do basically research with tires. Or like if you want to go work for GE Aviation, obviously you need to make CubeCats a really big part of your resume. It's a good aerospace type of like extracurricular and things like that. It's a good experience for that kind of stuff. You got to customize and tailor your resume for high priority jobs. Prepare questions. So obviously, like a big thing is that they're always like, well, do you have any questions for me? And then like I know for a fact, like 90% of you will be like, no. But like you should have like something to say. Like you shouldn't just be like, well, no, I don't have any questions for you at this time. Usually doesn't go over very well. Prepare your wardrobe and appearance. You need to look nice. Don't look like this when you go to the career fair. love of God, don't do that. Get there early. The line is going to be, if you get there at exactly, when does it open? 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock? If it opens at 10 o'clock, if you get there at 10 o'clock, the worst the lines will ever get is they'll go out of CRC, around, and then up to TUC. That happens. That's a very real thing. You need to get there like 15 to 20 minutes early and be waiting in line to start. Because like you won't get like seriously, like you will either not get in or the place will be so flooded that you can't move, or the lines for the places that you want to go talk to will be so long that you'll have to wait 45 minutes to even talk to someone. And then that's never fun. Get everyone's contact information when you're done, and then be sure to follow up when you're done. So, list of employers. I don't even know about this website. Tribunal casually puts up all of the, like, they put up everyone who's going to be there. So I can go to it. Has everyone seen it before? Has everyone seen this website before, where you can go and like search by employee? Just go to it. Okay. All right. So, like, if you go to this, you have the career fair. So first of all, there's 2 career fairs. You should always be going to the technical career fair. What? Why is it not showing up here? Anyway, so you should be going to the technical career fair. So you can sort this by major too. So I can see, let's see, let's go to chemical engineering, just because I'll actually know who people are. Of course I did. I swear I know how to spell. There we go. Degree level, any, doesn't matter. Citizenship, any. That actually does matter. We'll talk about that. Filter. Okay, I guess it's already filtered. All right, so like you can see the list of all the companies like Honda, Toyota, L'Oreal. I have friends who work for L'Oreal. Marathon Petroleum. For the love of God, if any of you are Meckies, Marathon Petroleum. Lubrizol, MedPace, all of these different companies, and they will go through, and you can go through and you can click on each one, and it will go through and give you a short description of what they do, as well as like kind of different things, and then you can do more research on them. It also has their website on there, so it's even easier for you. This is actually like something really nice Tribunal sets up for you every time that there's a career fair. So like take advantage of that, seriously. Like it's really good and it makes things really easy for you. So employer information sessions. So again, you can help like base expectations from an employer, from like how their sales pitch is. So like if you go to the marathon, you go to the marathon information session. Like for example, you can figure out exactly what marathon wants at a co-op, and you can build a sales pitch for the career fair based off of what marathon wants in a co-op. Or you can go to Gulfstreams, and then the other advantage is that you get to meet people there. So you can go find someone from the information session that you talk to and be like, oh, I remember you from the information session. Like, and then you'll get chatted up. It's easier to get things going. It's easier to talk to them. Also, like, even if you're not necessarily interested in these companies, it's a really good chance to do like a dress rehearsal for like your elevator speech and to get questioned by people. So like, even if you don't care about going to work for Gulfstream at all, like you can go to their information session and then you get a chance to talk to people and then like practice your elevator speech, practice answering questions, practice your interviewing style, like how things are going to work and how they work out for you, so that you can get more used to it and you can get more adjusted to it. So like elevator speech. So obviously you all kind of know what this is. So obviously an elevator speech is clear, it's brief, it's a commercial about yourself. Like really it is. Like it's an advertisement for who you are in 40 seconds. That's what it is. It communicates who you are, what you're looking for, and how you can benefit someone else. And like how you can benefit, like how, like seriously, it's not too terribly complicated, but at the same time you need to practice this. You use this always to introduce yourself to an employer. It's literally the first thing that should come out of your mouth. That's what it should be. It should be the first thing that comes out of your mouth. You should rehearse this many times so that you know it like the back of your hand. Like you can just say it and it feels robotic almost. It really should. Like you should know this super well. And practice it. When you practice it out loud, you want it to sound normal. You want it to sound natural. You need to get comfortable with what you're saying. You need to get comfortable talking about yourself. It's really super important. Resumes. So one thing that some students always do is that you'll see the kid walking around with a giant stack of resumes in his hand, like when he first starts, and then they come out and then they're all crinkled, they're all wrinkled, they're all crumply. They may have sweat spots on them from them walking around all day. You should bring a professional portfolio. It looks good. Like, you know, the leather pad folios, you should bring one of those with you and fill it with like 20 resumes. Bring one of those. Yes. Yes, Tyler. Yeah, that would work fine. Just something that looks nice. Like, don't like carry around your backpack. Or even like a 50-cent 5-star folder works too. I did that once when I didn't have a leather pad folio. That still looks better than like you just carrying it around like resumes around in a sack in your hand. Bring your customized resumes for priority employers. So if you have people you for sure want to talk to and you for sure want to get a job with, bring a customized resume for them. And then just bring a bunch of baseline resumes for everybody else that you just happen to meet at the career. But you should always, if you have someone that you know for a fact you want to go talk to, you should definitely customize your resume and tailor it to their job position and what they want. Don't bring cover letters. It looks weird. No one accepts cover letters at the career fair. And I've never once had someone ask me for a cover letter. I've been to the career fair 4 times. Never once have they ever asked me for a cover letter. And this is always a good question. Do you want to bring it printed on high quality resume paper? If you have it, why not? If you don't, oh well. But if you have it, or you want to get it, or you for some reason have it, like why not make your resume stand out? You're gonna be in a stack of like 50 others. Why not have it look nicer than everybody else's? Especially when you're just the whole goal is for you to try to get a job and to stand out. It's not necessarily critical, but if you have it, not a bad thing. So asking employers questions, this is always a really weird one. Like, what do you talk to them about? Like, you need to act natural, act unrehearsed, and genuine. Don't like go on their website and then like look up some really obscure piece of information and then like ask them about that. Like, ask them like some good questions based on like your research, but don't just go into their like annual report. Find some really general weird piece of information. Ask them an esoteric question about like some product line and the future of that product line, because 98 to 99% of the time you're gonna look like an idiot. Because more than likely, because we were talking about this in class. He said, I've had kids come up to me and they ask me these weird questions about some product line that realistically isn't even like a big piece or like is still in development. They get it wrong. They don't even know what it's about. And then they just look dumb. And then it makes me not want to talk to them. Like, just ask them like really good, just ask them like questions like, what is a typical 5-year trajectory for someone in X position, in like an entry level engineer position? That's a very realistic question you can ask someone. Like, where would you realistically be in 5 years if you started with this company? Or like, what skills do you most look for in a candidate for this position? Like, that's a good question you can ask. Or what is one of the biggest challenges of your job? Like, what makes your job difficult? Because this is something that you would care about if you were going to go start your job. Don't try to stump the employer. Like, don't try to seem smarter than the recruiter. It makes you look like a jerk. Don't do it. Like, some people like do that, and I just don't understand. Like, I literally like stood next to people at the BASF booth, and then they like tried to ask them a question. They tried to ask a guy who I later found out when I went to go work on the same site was their lead engineer and their head of their co-op program was one of their lead engineers. And this kid like tried to stump him on a question like about some product line. And I was like literally standing there and he just had the most annoyed look on his face. Obviously, kid did not get like when you do that kind of stuff, like it just makes you look bad. Don't try to get the employer to tell you their life story. Like, you're there to get a job, not to make friends with them. And this is a really big one. None of you are international students, but this is a really big one for them, especially. Don't try to argue with the employer. Like, if they tell you something, like a good example is, especially with international students, is like GE Aviation. Even if you have a work visa, they won't hire international students as co-ops. It's just a company policy. And then they'll be like, and then a lot of the time people will sometimes be like, oh, but I have this X, Y, and Z visa. And it's like, no, but it's still a policy that we don't take. Like, we don't take, like, I'm sorry, like, but we don't take like international students. Like, don't try to fight with the employer at the career fair. It's such a bad idea. It just looks really bad. Appearance. Looks do matter, guys. As much as you want to tell yourself that being ugly doesn't matter, trust me, it does matter at the career fair how well dressed you are and how clean kept. Like, don't be like me and come in with a headband, a t-shirt, and then a really crappily grown out beard. Like, Get a haircut a couple days before. It looks good, looks clean, looks like you're well kept. Shave, for the love of God, shave. Wear a nice suit. And how I'm gonna do all of you have suits? Does anyone not have a suit in this room? Ian, I know you have a suit. I saw it. Well, do you have a suit?
No.
You need.
I have a coat.
Are you serious? That's all you got?
Yeah.
You need to get a suit. Well, wait, how did you break your suit? Ian, you need a suit. You need a suit. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you later about options that you have because you don't have a suit. But I have ways that I can work with you. Just come. We'll talk after this, okay? About your wardrobe options. But again, when you get there, business professional only. Like if you're wearing jeans, if you're wearing t-shirt, you're not gonna get in. They say that if you don't wear it, if you wear gym shoes, like you're not gonna get in. But I totally have seen people at the career fair wearing their gym shoes with a suit, and it looks awful. Don't do it. You'll never understand how truly bad someone looks when they dress in a black suit with white Nikes, like white, like dad Nikes, not like, or like even black Nikes, like like the like the freaking, oh my god, it just looks bad. It like really just looks bad. It looks unprofessional. You guys need to be well dressed. You'll have coat and bag check available at the career fair, and then so this is always a big one: hairs, tattoos, piercings. It's a better idea. It's better to be conservative than it isn't to not be. Like for example, if you're going to go for a job where you know for a fact that the company culture is like you can get away with wearing a man bun, then like for sure, like you can go talk to them wearing a man bun. But if you don't know that, which more than likely 98% of the time you won't, it's better to dress conservatively and it's better to style yourself conservatively. Or like tattoos, like you have a tattoo, like yes.
Our best.
I would not wear a vest. I would not wear a vest. Generally, yes, it is included in business professional, but not many people wear vests to the career fair. Like, I wouldn't wear a vest. Let me put it that way. I would not personally wear a vest. We'll talk about this more when we get there. Piercings, like, I don't know too much. I would say like a nose stud, like wouldn't be too bad anymore because so many people have them. Would you agree with that? Like a nose stud, because that's pretty. That's fair. That's fair. But like
okay, the person with the nose thing, you can see the hole.
that's the only reason I brought it up because I knew you had a nose.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what? I don't know. Anyway, again, overall, better to be conservative in your dress. It really is. Engaging with the employer when you get there. Greet with a firm handshake and look someone in the eye. You need to look them in the eye. If you can't look them in the eye, look at the center of their forehead. Then it looks like you're looking them in the eye. If you can't look someone in the eye like I can't look anybody in the eye. It actually is really weird. But Jacob, don't do this to me right now. So, if you're at the career fair, I'm like, hello. Good. You made eye contact. Good. Firm handshake, look someone in the eye. Number one key. Don't do that. Next step, hand your employer your resume and give your elevator speech. So start pulling out your resume, and then once you put it in their hands, start giving their elevator speech. When you give your elevator speech, they're going to be looking over your resume. When you give your elevator speech, make sure it hits some of the key points in your resume and talk about them for a little bit. Because then they'll be able to go through your resume and look at some of the key stuff in there, but then you'll also be talking about it and they know that you know your resume. So it knows that it looks like you know what you're talking about. Yes.
Would it be best if they don't accept resumes? Like on the spot, they say email them the resume. Would it be acceptable? You guys accept resumes?
No, I just get no, because you're at the career. So, I mean, I understand that philosophy, but I mean, like every time I go up to an employer, I will try to give them my resume. And then if they're saying, oh, we're not taking resumes at this time, then you'll be like, oh, okay. And then just put it back in your folder. And then you just talk to them. And then maybe they'll ask for your resume after that. Yeah. And then if they're just like, no, we're not taking red, then just, it's not that big of a deal. That's not really that big of a deal, like to be like, for them to be like, oh, no, whatever. I mean, that's weird. I've never heard that happen to me ever. That was also, yeah, I've had that happen. I've had that happen more. Is that I'll go up and start talking to people like, oh, we're not hiring right now, but I'll still talk to you. And I'm like, why then? Why am I talking to you? Like, you know why I'm here. Like, but like, you know why I'm here. Anyway. So when they review your resume, they're going to ask you some questions about some of the stuff on there. Know your resume well. Don't put something on there that you can't talk about for at least 5 minutes. At least 5 minutes. Just my opinion. What were your key contributions? They will be interested in, like leadership, ownership, results. Like talk about what you've done. Don't assume that the recruiter is a domain expert. So like, don't assume that if you're an electrical engineering co-op, you're looking for an EE co-op, that they're going to know EE stuff. Don't assume that if they're chemical engineering, that if they're looking for chemical engineering co-ops, that they know chemi stuff. Because sometimes you'll just get the recruiter from HR. And sometimes it goes over very badly when you start talking technical. Just be wary if they say, oh, I'm not this, then stop going super in depth or like try to keep it as high level as you can. Like if they say something. Be sure to ask your questions. Ask some good questions, please. Like ask some questions. Like ask something. Say something. Don't just say no. I don't have any questions at this time. Like ask them a question. Create a secondary connection. So, like for example, like this is not as big of a deal, but like for example, if like you're talking with someone, like let's say you're talking from a rep from GE, be like, oh, it'd be really cool if you guys could come in and like talk. You could have someone come in and talk to our club sometime. I'm a member of UC CubeCats. Or like, oh, I'm a member of Society of Women Engineers. Like, it would be really cool if you guys could come in and do a talk real time, like sometime. If you like think that you can do that, or like you think that that kind of a connection would make sense, like do it. It's just putting your foot more in the door. Always, always, always do not walk away without some sort of contact information from someone you talk to. Don't do it. Don't walk away without some sort of contact information. Because what will happen is that sometimes, especially with larger companies, things will get lost in a sea. And then all of a sudden, you don't have anyone to talk to. Like, for example, Goodyear. When I went to go apply to them and I talked to them, no one had a business card. Nobody was giving out business cards. But I made sure that someone gave me their email from the interview. I made sure of that. Because sure enough, 2 weeks later, when HR said they would contact me, it had been 2.5 weeks and HR hadn't said anything. So I emailed this guy, and then within 30 minutes of me emailing this guy, I get an email from HR. So it's super important that you get someone's contact info that you have at the company. You need someone to talk to, whether it's HR, whether it's an engineer that you talk to, you need someone's email. Don't walk away without one. Don't do it. Don't do it. Close with an ask, like, what are the next steps? Like, what are the next steps in applying for the job? Like, when can I expect to hear from you if they offer you an interview? Like, la-di-da-di-da. Just always, like, close with, like, what's the next step based on what you talk about? Just thank them, talk to them, follow up, send them an email. Like, send them an email, thanks. Maybe even shoot them a LinkedIn request. But at least send a thank you email if you talk to someone, especially if you get an interview. So with that, does anyone have any questions over any of that before we get on to professional attire for males? Career Fair 101 crash course. Anyway, so professional attire. I actually found this diagram that goes through and talks about all of the like all the different like levels of dress. You guys need to be semi-formal, business formal. You need to be suit and tie. That's where you need to be. Ian, this is why you're important, because you're going to kind of be teetering the edge of those two. And we need to find an outfit that works in yours that makes it look more business formal. What? Yes, you should go white tie with the hat. So. So, remember, make your suit look good. Make yourself look good. Have a suit that actually fits you. I can't tell you how we're like having a suit that doesn't fit and looks awful. Look at the guy in the bottom right corner. That looks terrible. Like nothing fits him. Everything's too tight in the chest. The sleeves are way too short. Your pants are way too short. It just looks weird. The tie color, the colors are clashing, gold, white, black. It just doesn't. It's weird. It just looks odd. And then you stick out and it doesn't, like, it's just really bad. Have something that's fitted. Have something that looks nice. If you have the opportunity, polish your shoes. Like, if you have shoe polish, you should polish your shoes. Make your shoes look nice. You need to try to look as good as you can. Get your hair cut day before. Style your hair if you style your hair. If you don't style your hair, maybe try styling your hair. For gentlemen, recommendations for colors for you guys: white shirt, dark blue tie, if you have it. White shirt, black tie. Dark gray works. Don't wear things like, don't wear red. Do not wear red. Don't wear red. Red is a power color. Red is like, it's weird. You need to wear something that's calm. You need to wear like calmer colors. It's like calm, cool. Black, but yeah. Like, don't like calm, cool business colors. Yeah. I just don't wear red ties in principle for that's a me thing. That's just a me thing. Anyway, does anyone have any specific questions about dress? This is more of a Q&A thing. Yes. No. Your hair color is fine. Yeah. Guys. Yeah, dark suit, like that's totally fine. That's the color of my suit. Darker suits, darker colors usually work okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen your tan suit. Your tan suit is an atypical color, but it still looks fine. Like, it's not typically what you would see, but it should work okay. Just figure out how to color match it right, like really well. We can talk after this. We'll figure something out. Do you have any? Okay. What color tie? Well, we'll talk about this more in depth. Yeah.
So what about tie?
What tie pattern? Do you have a stripe? If you can have like something that's like the least aggressive stripe pattern that you can think of, like blue and white, like that's good. Like that's fine. But like in general, solid color ties are usually best to stick to. If you're gonna do a pattern, do something that's lightly colored stripes. Just my opinion. Does anyone have any other questions that they want to ask? All right. With that, Grace, it's your turn.
Hello, everybody. So professional attire for women. A lot of the rules that Alex just talked to also apply here. Please make sure that your suit is either black or dark gray. I wouldn't wear the white suit. I personally feel that like a colored shirt underneath your jacket or something helps you stand out. I personally have a pink and orange shirt that I wear. It's just something a little bit more subtle that you can underneath your jacket or whatever. If you decide to wear a skirt, please make sure that it's below the knee. Anything above could be considered like less conservative, or wear slacks. For shoes, I like to wear flats, but if you want to go with heels, please make sure they're 2 inches or under. Does anybody have questions on women's attire? Okay.
Jacob, you special.
Resume writing. So just some general rules on your resume. The formatting, it doesn't really matter like necessarily what specific little nuances you have with your formatting as long as it's consistent. So for example, if you like italicize the date or like a project you work on, just make sure you italicize all the rest of the dates. If you use bullet points one place, use them the rest of the resume. Don't switch it up. And just make sure it generally looks, clean, well formatted, and organized. Wording should be action-oriented and descriptive. So, for example, instead of saying something like, I made a health app for people to, check up on, their health statistics, you could say something like, I built an app using C and Java that tracked health statistics such as heart rate, steps, or whatever. That way you're going into detail about the languages that you use so the employer knows specifically what languages worked on in that project, even though they might already use a section, it's good to have them there. And they know what specifically your app did and how it helped. Action-oriented words are also very important, and it's usually a good rule of thumb to have an action-oriented verb at the start of your sentence because that's what catches the employee's eye the most. Built an app versus an app that was built by me. It's a little different. So sections that you might want to consider having. For you guys, I think having high school on your resume is fine. In college, obviously. Put any GPAs, if it's good, or any honors or scholarships that you might want to consider too. Skills, soft skills, are applicable for this field. So communicating, but team-based skills, leadership, those skills are just as important ones. If you know any software languages, please list all of them. Even if you've used them just a little bit, it's important to have them on there, just so employers know your general skill level, experience, of the places you've worked, CubeCats and other student organizations. It's important to have descriptors there. Honors awards, so any AP classes that you took, you can put on your resume. Scholarships, any certifications, or if you took a special test or something and scored really well, you can put that on there. So I'm gonna show you guys some examples of resumes, but does anybody have questions before we do that?
Just sort of comment. It's important to put on your resume if you work with certain programming languages, stuff like that. It's important to put that in there. You can it. Don't go to the extent that you buy. It's never a good idea. Don't do that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a good idea to have, descriptors there, such as basic experience with C, advanced level Java or something like that.
Just a suggestion. If you speak a foreign language and you don't speak it anything but fluently, don't put it on your resume. Just my personal opinion. Like, for example, if you go work for a French-based company and you put French on your resume and then you're asked to sit on a teleconference in French and you can't perform, you're gonna look dumb. Or for example, if Goodyear, they put me in Latin America, they put me in their Latin America region. They expected me to know how to speak Spanish because I put Spanish on my resume. And then I couldn't perform in a teleconference, I would have been screwed. Be sure, don't
overextend yourself.
Exactly. Don't overextend what you do.
Yeah. All right, so here's an example taken from Alex's resume. So you can see, he has formatted on the left here. This is personally how I like to do it. All the dates that he has. He's sectionized on the other side. Things that he's done. CubeCats he presented at the SmallSat conference. So if you guys are presenting at DCAS, which I know a couple of you are, you can put that on your resume. That looks really impressive as a freshman that you're presenting at a conference, or even that you're attending one. It's very descriptive words like developed, presented, awards. So Eagle Scout, just put stuff like that to show that you're involved in other things other than engineering and relations, dedication. This is something taken from Reeves' resume. So he's formatted a little bit differently, but it's still consistent, which is important. He has his skills broken up. These are all just different examples. There's no really right or wrong way to do your resume as long as it's consistent, and that's not professional.
2007.
All right. If you guys have any questions or want feedback on your resume, please. Please, what?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey everyone.
Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. Hi. So I'm going to talk to you today about body language and how to answer interview questions for those of you who have never interviewed at the career fair before. I've done it quite a bit. So here's what the career fair actually looks like from above, if you've never been there. I know it looks pretty intimidating, but basically you have lots of booths with all the companies. Everyone's walking around in the gym, just kind of standing in line and handing people their resumes. So once you make it through that, congratulations, because it's really hard. You need to follow up. So like Alex said, you need to know which companies you applied to. So maybe just write like a small list in your notebook of being like, hey, I handed a resume to this guy at GE and this guy at Gulfstream, and that conversation went really well and it was great. You'll either know right away, maybe they'll tell you, oh, we have a spot for an interview tomorrow too. Remember that because they'll expect you to be there. Otherwise, the technical career fair is on Thursday. The interview days, and this is listed on the website, is the next day. So anytime between the end of the career fair on Thursday and like the afternoon on Friday, you might, if you have your phone number, expect a call from one of the representatives asking for an interview for the next day. So maybe just keep your phones on and recognize the area code, or just know like what you should be looking for. Professors tend to be okay if you like get a call and you're like, oh, I need to take this. They get that you guys are like looking for jobs for co-ops around the time of the career fair, and they'll probably let you leave class. If you have like an exam or you're in a test, don't answer your phone. Call them back as soon as you can and just say, hey, I'm sorry, I was in class, and they'll probably still be okay with scheduling an interview for you. Once you have an interview set up, it'll probably be in the same room as the career fair, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
in the gym, in the rec center. Research the company, of course, like Alex said, you want to be prepared for the interview. Dress well for the interview. Typically, you want to still do business professional, not the same outfit that you wore on Thursday, but maybe a different one, or at least a different tie. Arrive early, not like super early, but like 10 to 15 minutes, because they might finish early with the person that was before you, and then they can take you and they'll be happy that you arrived early so they can kind of move through everyone quickly, because they will be interviewing people all day. And be patient if you get there and they aren't ready for you. Just sit there and twiddle your thumbs, I guess, just be nice. And don't, go up to them and be like, hey, come on, I'm waiting. That's just kind of rude. So what's an interview exactly? I don't know. It's a conversation, basically. It's a way for them to get to know you past your resume and past the 5-minute talk that you had at the career fair. It's you trying to get to know the company and the company trying to get to know you. So it is a two-way street. And it's your time to ask questions and their time to ask questions. Typically, the recruiters will have like a script that they're going off of. Maybe it'll be like, they'll ask you how you're doing and what your classes are like, or they'll ask you to tell them about yourself, which is a great question that they always ask you. they might not have a script and they might just go freeform and ask you questions about yourself, in which case you can still answer them. If they start off from a script and then move to just a conversation, that's a pretty good sign. You'll typically encounter two types of interviews at the career fair. There's behavioral and technical. Technical interviews are kind of what they sound like. They ask you more technical questions, sort of oriented towards what you'll be doing in your major. Like if you're in computer science, they might ask you to like write some pseudocode or talk about how you kind of solve this problem. That's really not very common for a first interview. It's not very common for the career fair in general. So you probably shouldn't be prepared for that. And I'm going to talk about behavioral interviews because that's like, I'd say 90% of, 95% of the interviews that you're going to do are behavioral. And they're just basically, you have something to say?
Yeah, can I do mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do agree with you. Technical, there's like a 98% chance you're not going to get that interview, but that doesn't mean don't be prepared.
Yeah.
Because, for example, my very first job interview that I ever did, Shepherd Chemical, it was a 45-minute interview. First 15 minutes where they asked me the general stuff, like, who are you, get to know me, and they're like, all right, so we're ready for the last 30 minutes of the interview. Talk to anyone else we interviewed with us today? And I was like, no. And they're like, all right, good, and you won't be prepared for the test. And I was like, test? I was literally a first semester freshman, and they asked me to design. I kid you not. They asked me to design a chemical. If I wanted to extract and sell salt from the ocean, how would I do it? And come up with a chemical process. That was literally a question. They said, draw everything out. They gave me 30 minutes. Like, watch my thought process, how I did it. So, just because, like, it's not common, that doesn't mean that it can't.
Yeah, in that case, I guess you're, wow. Your improvisational skills will come in handy if that happens. But it's almost certain that you'll get a behavioral interview first. Lots of companies will do 2 interviews. They might do behavioral and then technical. But really behavioral is, I think,
I would agree.
Really what you guys should be prepared for. So I'm going to talk about body language now. Disclaimer, it's not magic. It's not this thing that, like this magical tool that you've heard of that like will get you a job. It's just, well, actually, what do you guys know about body language? I would ask. Someone please answer that question. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Stand up straight. Okay, good. Yeah. So there's that question. Got some Google stock photos. Yeah, there's a lot of those here. Body language is basically a form of communication. Anything that you're not saying with your voice, you're saying with your body, your persona, your dress, and who you are. So you need to communicate your intentions. Why are you at the career fair? To get a job. That's right. You want a job. That's your intention. You want a job and you want to show them that you want a job. So not only do you want a job, your hands want a job, your eyes want a job. Like everything that you do needs to communicate that you want the job, that you're, I know it's funny, that you're prepared to get the job, you know, that you're excited to be there. You don't want to act bored. You don't want to act tired. So this is just kind of the 4 areas that me personally that I like to focus on. I mean, body language is like a very deep field apparently, but basically you want to show them that you're confident, that you know what you're talking about, that you are listening to them and that you're engaged in the conversation that you're having. So, you know, stand up straight, speak clearly. You know, when you shake hands, just do it very firmly. You want to be serious because you are interviewing for technical positions and they are dealing with like some very, you know, serious hands-on fields, things that they're going to be trusting you to do with like a lot of company property or with things that cost a lot of money. And you want to communicate that you're serious, that you will take things seriously. Some ways to do that is making eye contact or, you know, like Alex said, almost eye contact, you know, just engaging with them. Don't fidget, don't shuffle. You want to be interested, right? You don't want to be like not present because the person that you're talking to should be like the only thing that you're focusing on. So lean forward a bit if you're sort of having like a, don't like lean all the way here, but just lean forward and be interested and show them that, you know. And then be open. So don't, you know, cross your arms with your feet and look down. because that shows that you're like literally closed off, that you don't want to be there, and that you feel not confident and not willing to get the job. So just to be open, you kind of just stand comfortably. You know, you don't need your arms out like this. You just have them at your side, or I say at the most like maybe cross like this, because this is still like okay. This is what I do actually. Basically, you can talk the talk. You know, you can talk yourself up, and you can say as much as you want about yourself, but you also have to walk the walk. You need to show that what you're saying is true with your body. Know your audience. So not only do you need to like show your intention, you need to kind of get feedback from them. So if you're like leaning forward and they're kind of like, whoa, you know, then lean back a bit, you know, bring it back. If you are like a really funny person and you just like to make jokes and that's just how you communicate with people, but they seem very serious, you know, that right. Dial back the jokes a bit and just kind of stay to the more serious and sort of plain side, because you don't want to kind of force your personality on them too much, at least not yet. And don't overthink it. You know, if you're focused on your hands too much, you're not going to be paying attention to what you're actually saying, which is also important. So you have an interview. Before the interview, this is in quotations because there isn't really a before the interview. You're being interviewed all the time. So as soon as you, I guess, walk into the room where all the chairs are and you're waiting, the interview has begun. There might be a representative there who sees you and they see the way that you conduct yourself, you know. So when you sit down and you're you know here, don't be on your phone playing a game. Don't just kind of be running around crazy, you know. Just sit down and be comfortable, be patient, because you're waiting. That's like what you're doing. That's just me personally. I mean, if you guys need to like look something up on your phone real quick about the company, that's okay. But maybe 5 minutes before your interview is supposed to begin, just get off your phone and just kind of be there. And listen for your name. They'll probably just call your name and be like, Jessica, and you'll be like, hello. At which point you stand up, right? Because you're not going to wait for them to come to you. You're going to go to them, shake their hand, make eye contact, the usual, say hello, introduce yourself. They'll probably have your resume with them. If not, you can get another copy. Answer questions. So the first thing they say to you might not be, so tell me about yourself. It might be, hi, how are you? You need to be listening for them talking to you. So tell them how you are, you know. They're probably kind of nervous too, honestly, because interviewing someone is really hard. So, you know, just start up that conversation, and then you're gonna, I guess, walk to a table. Usually how it happens, they have like tables for each company set up in the gym. You're just gonna sit down at the table. And please bring a copy of your resume, because they might not have a copy of your resume. They might be someone new that wasn't there yesterday, in which case you can give them your resume. If they have your resume, then it's good that you have one, so then you can, you know, reference it and look at it, and then they're looking at the same thing. So during the interview, you know, sit comfortably and professionally. Don't slouch. Don't lean back too far. Don't lean forward too far. Don't like put your elbows on the table. You're sitting there and you're you know, engaged. Lean forward maybe just a little bit, because I think that's just a very good way to show that you're comfortable and interested. It's just a kind of a good default. Smile. Don't be creepy about it, but just be excited to be there, you know, because you want to get a job. Hands. You guys all know how you communicate with your hands, if you like use them a lot or if you don't. You want to kind of stay true to yourself, because I think how people are the most comfortable. If you talk with your hands a lot, it'll make you really uncomfortable to just keep them still. And if you don't normally talk with your hands, then don't try to force yourself to, because people can kind of tell when you're being ingenuine about that. So your options are pretty much use your hands or put them on the table like this, or rest them like this, or keep them under the table. If you're keeping them under the table, maybe bring them up a bit to be like, just once in a while, so they don't think you're hiding something. You know, it's just kind of good practice to show your hands. It shows that you're open, you know, and that you have nothing to hide. If you feel nervous during the interview, and interviews are really stressful, breathe. I think the most important thing I can tell you in this whole presentation is just breathe. Okay, take a deep breath. Just, you know, focus on what you're doing. Recenter yourself. If they ask you a question and you have no idea how to answer it, it's okay to say, hey, I'm going to take a second to think about that. Take a second to think about it and then answer. That's perfectly acceptable. If you really just go blank and can't think of anything to say, look at your resume. That's why I brought a copy of your resume. And just reference it again. Just be like, oh, I was in CubeCats and this and this and this, and it was a lot of fun. But don't stick exclusively to your resume, because you want to enter that realm of conversation about who you are as a person and not just what's on the paper. And don't freak out. Stay calm. Stay cool. Interview questions. So what will probably happen is they'll sit down and if they haven't had a chance to read your resume yet, they'll take a few seconds and read over it and look at it. And this whole time you'll just be sitting there in silence, and it'll be really weird. And you might feel compelled to ask them a question or be like, oh, and here's something that I did. Just don't. Because all they're doing is just looking at your resume and thinking of questions to ask you. So that period of silence might last 10 seconds, and that's okay. At that point, they'll probably ask you a question like, so tell me about yourself, or what's CubeCats, or what's a project that you did? There's a lot of questions they can ask, and we'll talk about the specific questions later. Actually listen when they ask you a question. Don't be in your head, because then you won't answer the question that they asked you, and that can be really off-putting to them because it shows that you don't listen. Be honest, very important. Do not lie in an interview because it won't serve you well at all. People can tell when you're lying. It's just be honest. Show them who you are, and be proud of who you are, and believe that you can get the job that you're applying for. So pretty much all behavioral interview questions will be a variation on the theme of, so tell me about yourself, because that's what they're doing. They want to know about who you are. Like I said, they might have a script. They might have a script and then not go off the script. They might have nothing. It's not your job to know what's on their list of things to ask you. You just kind of have to take the questions as they come. When you're answering the question, like, so tell me about yourself, or what's a project that you did, there's a lot of different methods of answering that question that people go over. I don't know if you guys went over them in your co-op class. One of them is called PAR, which is like problem, action, result. Some people do like past, present, future. That's my personal favorite. But the gist of it is that you want to tell a story, a short story. Don't launch into a big narrative. You don't want to give them a one-word answer. So tell them about yourself. Oh, I go to school here. It's great. It's not a good answer. So, for example, taking past, present, future. So tell them about yourself. You could say, well, I've been at the university for 3 years. I'm an aerospace engineering student. And then present. Right now I'm in CubeCats and I'm working on XYZ. It's really enjoyable. And then future. At this company I'm really interested in, or I'd like to work on, or I see myself becoming this sort of engineer. And that's a very solid way to package your answer. As you kind of get into the interview, you might get the sense that they're asking you a question and looking for a specific response. You should really just try to answer the question the way that you would answer it. Like I said, be honest. My co-op advisor told me this thing. He said, what do you think they want to know about you? Which is just a big mind game way of saying they're asking you questions so that they can get a sense of what you think is important to them. If that's way too much in your head in the moment, then don't worry about answering questions the way that they'll expect you. Just answer the question. Do you have any examples of interview questions that they've asked you that stand out?
Actually, so I think my second interview. Mm-hmm. My second interview, I went to go interview for my first co-op position at Amarillo Chemical Fatty Acid. So first of all, they take me into their conference room, which is standard war room, boardroom.
Okay, so offsite interview.
Yeah, no, here, on the plant. They had it in the plant.
Oh, I see.
And in their.
But it's not at the career fair.
No, it's not at the career fair.
Okay.
It was an offsite. Yeah, sorry. Then they know.
That's fine.
That. So go in. They sit me down. They sit me down in the chair. The guy who's the plant manager says, "Hold up, I'll be back. I think I'm just interviewing with the plant manager." While he comes back about 2 minutes later with all 8 production engineers. The guy who eventually becomes my future boss and who becomes my co-op wrangler is what he likes to call himself. He comes down, he picks up my resume, he looks me dead in the face, doesn't ask me anything. This is the first words he said to me. So how do you do with smells and dirt? Expect anything. Expect anything to happen.
Yeah.
And then the other one, that one story I told about Shepherd Chemical.
Yeah.
Like you can like realistically like expect anything when you go into an interview.
That's true.
Like in general, like I've been asked in almost every interview, so tell me about yourself. Almost
Right.
every interview I've ever done.
It's just a great question.
It's just a great question to start about. Or what was the one you told me the other day?
Yeah, one of the questions which I later realized was a variation on "So tell me about yourself," which I didn't realize at the time, and I definitely stumbled over, was, "So what have you done with your life?" And you just have to go with it, you know. Like I said, if you need to take a second to think about it, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I'll say is one of the best things going around these interviews and the questions they ask you is you want to know what your strength is and what you want to bring to the company. If you have a statement, if you say, I am somebody who has an amount of knowledge in various areas who can effectively collaborate across multiple disciplines in an organization, try and frame your answers to tie back around to that thing that you bring to the company. If you can have throughout all of your answers, if you can have a sense of what your strength is that they can come away with, that can be very helpful.
Or yeah, and then any questions that you answer. So like for example, whenever Goodyear does interviews, they like have like stock. They literally tell you they have like a list of 40 questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask you, and they pick one of them at random, and they say, we want you to answer with a problem that you faced, an action you did, and the result. They literally want problem, action, result.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And some of them are really weird. And it'll be like, so tell me about a time you did this. And then you have to answer the question. Never answer those questions with the same thing twice. Never do that. Like never use the same thing, the same answer twice.
Good point.
And then also, like if you have engineering experience, you're telling them about like your engineering stuff, don't answer with just engineering questions. Tell them about time like your personal. Like for example, like tell me about a time that you had a high power, like tell me about a time that there was like a crisis. And you already answered with like some sort of like design project that you once did, like answer with something about like something you did in Boy Scouts, something you had happen in Boy Scouts, or talk about something that you did, like I don't know, like maybe a project that you did with your brother or your family. Like just try to look like a well-rounded person.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point because it's not an interrogation. You know, they're not just asking you questions all over and over. You want to talk back to them and you want to show them who you are. And like you said, Reeve, it's really good if you have something you want to talk about, then talk about it. You know, this is your time to show them who you are. I remember one of the questions that I got in an interview. Actually, let's back up a bit. There will probably be two types of people asking you questions. Sorry, what? Yeah.
How long can you like pause for a second?
Yeah, you can. They know that they're asking you questions that you've never heard before, and they're okay if you take a bit of time. I would say don't let the silence go more than 20 seconds, max. But if you really need to think about something and you come back with an answer that's really good, then that's good. You know, it shows that you're thoughtful and that you're actually thinking through your answers instead of trying to say everything and force something that's just not, you know, who you are. Yeah, so there'll probably be two types of people asking you questions. They will either be HR or hiring managers, or they will be managers, or people who work at the company who you might be working with later, or who are a part of the co-op program. When I interviewed for Siemens, and I actually interviewed at the career fair, and I got the co-op, and I've been to the past 2 rotations, I interviewed with 3 people. One of them was a hiring manager, and 2 of them were managers, and it was all at the same time. So you might be in a situation where you have 3 people asking you questions, in which case it's a good idea to address all 3 of them equally, and just try not to let it freak you out, because that's pretty normal, because they're just trying to get a sense of who everyone is. Actually, and then after that interview, I had another interview with another HR manager. They were like, one table over here and one table over here, and then you went and you moved to the next table. That might also happen. It's a bit unusual, but you know, that does happen. You kind of just have to go with what they tell you. At the end, they might ask you if if you have any questions for them. Like Alex said, please come prepared with a question, whether it's what's your company culture like, or what's the work-life balance like. Don't ask about pay. That's not your time to ask about how much you get paid. And don't assume that you've already gotten the job, right? Because that's presumptuous. You can ask if they're a manager and you know they're a manager there. You can be like, what do people who work with you typically do? What's your job like? What do co-ops do in my position? What positions are available? What's the trajectory like, for the next 5 years? There's so many questions that you can ask someone, and really this is your time to ask them because they work at the company in some capacity. Typically, the interviews that are right after the career fair last 10 to 30 minutes. Sometimes they last longer, sometimes they last shorter. Actually, they don't usually last shorter than that. Do your best not to go over the amount of time that they give you, because there is someone who's interviewing after you. So after the interview, they'll be the one to end it. If you get bored, don't stand up and leave, because you can't do that. They will end it in some capacity. They'll be like, they might hand you their business card, or you might have to ask for it. They might stand up, in which case you stand up. They might say, well, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for coming. We're really excited about this. Just be alert for when they're ending it, because then it's over. And they'll end it, but it doesn't quite end there, because, like I said, you're being interviewed all the time that you're in their presence. So stand up when they stand up, because you don't want to shake hands when you're sitting down. At least that's my personal thing. Some people are okay with shaking hands across the table. If they just lean forward and want to shake your hand, just do it. Smile and say thank you. Most important part of ending an interview, I think, is saying thank you, because they did just take the time out of their day to talk to you one-on-one, and they've been doing it all day, and you want to be, gracious about it. And like Alex said, make sure you have someone's contact information. Ask for their business card, or ask for someone's business card, just so you can follow up. And we will talk about follow-ups, just so you can check in with them, about when you should expect a call back, or an email back, or just some word about your next steps for the co-op. And then leave, get out of there, because there's someone else coming in, and you don't want to stick around. And I'm sure you all just want to get out of there and relax, celebrate and have fun. And then we will talk about follow-up emails, and that's all I have about body language and interview questions. Do you guys have any questions? No. Yes.
I just want to make sure I got the timeline right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The technical career fair on Thursday.
Yes.
And if things go according to plan, you'll be having Friday path.
Yeah. So not all of the companies have interviews that day, but the ones that do will have it on Friday in the rec center, and they will either call or email you about it. Other companies might have their own hiring process. They'll wait like a few weeks and then call you and schedule their own interviews. And you can actually find out which ones are doing on-site interviews. It's on the website that Alex showed us in the beginning. I think it says like interview next day, column yes or no.
Also, it's usually companies out of town.
Yeah.
Like Lubrizol, Goodyear, all do interviews on Friday because they're out of town companies.
Yeah. So just to summarize those important points: breathe, be honest, say thank you, dress well. You guys will be fine. Yeah, be prepared. Breathe.
So once you're done with your follow-up email, you're going to have some time to digest and probably think about what it is that you've been working on. So you're going to want to follow up a few hours after the meeting, sometime in that afternoon, just to thank them and tell them, sort of recap what happened during the meeting. By recapping, it shows you that you were paying attention. It shows that you were interested in what they had to say. If you ask them questions, let's say you ask them about company values or something, if you thought about another question, sometimes it can be important or even valuable to follow up on that question and say, hey, I thought about this further. I like your answer. That brought up this question, something like that, to show them that you were actively engaged in the interview. Show your contact information again. Sometimes you'll give them a business card or give them a resume. That's a physical piece of paper. It can get lost and get misplaced. Make sure to follow up with your information again. Generally, your email, at least your email and your phone number. If you have a web portfolio or a GitHub repository, sometimes that can be helpful to put in there as well. Does anybody have questions about follow-up emails? Went over that real fast. Pretty straightforward. I also wanted to talk about getting jobs with government agencies and getting jobs with people just in general outside of the career fair. There are a lot of people that are at the career fair, but not all of the people that you might want to work with will be there. Some people like Tesla, SpaceX. I'm going to go into detail more so about NASA. Other companies that you might want to work with are going to be there, and you're going to be applying online. For NASA specifically, there are two ways to do this. You can apply through their online student shopping initiative, which is called OSSI. The link is on the presentation. This is like a common app. So when you applied for college, you did a common app, send it to OSU, OU, UC, a bunch of different places. This works the same way. You can upload your resume, your contact information, your history, your job history, and then that'll upload it to their server, and then you can apply just with, it'll give you a listing of all the different jobs they offer, whether it's at one of their 13 research centers, at their headquarters. You can then go through the postings they have, and all you have to do is look at that posting, look at the description, and all you do is click apply. So you can apply to 30 or 40 different job postings for internships there all at once. So you don't have to fill out and re-upload your resume and your work experience and answer questions each separate time. So that's really helpful to do with them. A lot of companies do it that way. I know all of the Musk-esque, I'm sort of saying it that way, I'm lumping in Tesla, SpaceX, their Hyperloop team. PayPal does it the same way because that's also by Musk. And it's becoming a standard. They have, I forget the name of their actual website, but it's a job view website where you go through and update this, and then it lists all the positions you apply to their specific positions. When you do that, same thing with OSSI, anywhere online, this is where that cover letter comes in. You're told to, when you go to the career fair, not to bring a cover letter, because that's what you're doing. When you walk up to somebody and meet them face to face, that is your cover letter. That's you telling, here's why I'm here, here's why I'm interested in your position. When you're applying online or not being able to meet somebody, you can't do that. You need a way to verbally introduce yourself and tell people why you're there, why you want the job. That's where that cover letter comes in. So when you're applying online, that's much more important to have that cover letter. Specifically for all governmental agencies, this is, so the OSSI is specific to NASA, but USA Jobs is where all government program listings are. This is where, if you're in computer science, does the NSA come to the career fair? No, they have been asked once or twice. Okay. So the NSA, a lot of governmental agencies, USGS, NASA, all of their stuffs are listed on USA Jobs. You can just Google USA Jobs. It's literally usajobs.gov is the actual specific. For NASA, they list their pathways interns there. So OSSI is when you do a one-time internship at a NASA facility, and they'll give you a description, like I said, a description of the project you'll be working on. What a pathway intern is it's a little separate the way they do their stuff. A pathways intern is you actually become a NASA employee while you're at school, and then they have their own co-op rotation where they rotate you through different organizations. When you apply to USA Jobs, it's per NASA Center, so it's not a common app. You'll apply to the NASA Johnson Space Center pathways intern opening or the Goddard Space Flight Center. So it's separate for there. And if you do that, you're required at a minimum 3 co-ops. You can do up to 6. But what that leads to is once you graduate school, you're already an employee there, and it leads to immediate employment out of school. So if you go through USA Jobs, become a pathway intern, you'll get your PIV badge through NASA, which is your government ID badge, the personal identification verification badge, and everything. Become a government employee. All of that goes through that. Applications pop up randomly and go away. If you sign up on the site and actually put in your information, there's an alert setting where it'll send you an email or a text or whatever each time there's an opening. But those are the 2 ways to work. OSSI and USA Jobs are both for NASA. USA Jobs for all governmental agencies. Tips and interviews, just specifically for NASA and a lot of high-profile cases goes towards. I know when I've applied at NASA, at SpaceX, Tesla, Google, what they really want to know is why you want to work for them. So when I applied to NASA and I talked with them, the first thing they asked in an interview is why you want to be there. And just because it's NASA isn't a good answer. They want to know how your values align with their values. Values are very important to a lot of governmental agencies and a lot of these high-profile companies that you might apply to online. And then focus on your strengths. Like I said before, talking about interviews, make sure you know what you bring to the table and really push that strength and the strengths that you have through your answers. Talk about your goals and values. That's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. It's the exact same thing, except you have no single person to talk to, and it's all online. So just make sure to present yourself well through your writing, not just your formal communication. I will say, all the co-ops that I've gotten while here have not been through the career fair, but you will receive a phone interview. Phone interviews are a bit different. Sometimes they will schedule the phone interview. When I worked with GE, they'll have email communications with you and you'll set up an interview time. More and more, Skype is becoming more prevalent. Way back in 2014, Skype apparently wasn't as high quality enough. I don't know. But Skype is becoming, and Google Hangouts is becoming more prevalent so that you can actually see each other's faces and get some of that body language that misses over the phone call. So sometimes they'll set up an email. NASA, some other companies like to just call you out of the blue. My phone interview was in the middle of my signals class. Luckily, I answered it, but you might just get a phone call out of the blue. I only answered it because it came from Texas, and I know I applied to a position in Texas.
You know, on phone interviews, they can't see you, but there is something to be said for body language. When you're having a phone interview, personally, I think it's a good idea to stand up, but you don't sound like you're sitting down. I don't know, maybe you guys have like been talking to someone and you can see them smiling. You know what that sounds like. Pretend you are talking to them. Limited.
Yeah, that's all I have on that. Alex, how do you want to? So that's the end of the slides and the talks. Alex, do you want to talk about how you want to progress from here?
So if you guys have any questions for us, or like anything you want to talk about now, or you have anything with resume that you want to talk about, you can stick around for like 15, 20 minutes, talk to people, and head on out from there. But for now, like the rest of the time, it's time for you guys to ask questions that we can come talk to me because we have to figure you out what you're doing there as far as